Right, so this gives us the second part to the story of kind of like how my adventure started with it all, and it's probably going to be done in maybe a few parts or maybe not, I'm not sure. But it's springtime here and I've got a fly. He's just flying on my window. One of these big noisy ones. Yeah, my experiences started when I was a little kid. I was very frightened of the dark. I was very frightened too. At night time I totally hated the dark. It frightened me to death, pretty much. I would sleep under the blankets. I'd be too afraid to have any part of my body sticking out or have any part of my sight where I could see anything. So, which is really hard because when you're under the blankets like that, it's hard to breathe. So I lied awake and then the later I lied awake, the more fearful I got. Was when it got to the point of where I could no longer hear any noise from the house. I used to think I was the only one awake. I used to sometimes think that I was, actually a lot of the time, think that I was the only one awake in the whole world. And I felt I was just so afraid at night. I had a nightlight which was really cool. It was a teddy bear nightlight. It was really awesome. Oh, that fly. If I get you, you're going to be a walk. Actually, no, you're going to be a limp. You know, there's tons of houses in this town. Piss off. Go find somewhere else to buzz around, you annoying little whore. I'm making a video. But yeah, I was very sensitive, like seeing any type of cruelty on television or thing like that would really put me into a distraught state where I had to be consoled. Going into people's houses, I would sometimes be afraid because I could feel things here. And I still have that same feeling now as I did then. And the thing is that it's the same with Christianity. You have, when you get something, you'll always have a confirmation with it that gives you confirmation of that it happened. And that's how Christianity, and I guess most religions are probably will be the same. I don't want to sound like I'm ignorant towards anyone else's belief, but when you have something given to you, whether it's information or something like that, there'll always be some kind of confirmation to confirm that it came from a source. I always got confirmation. It's probably a couple of times that I didn't really when I was older, but when I was a kid it wasn't about I didn't want any type of connection like that, not to be fair, but I had night terrors. I'd run through the house screaming and smash into the door and then get back up and grab onto the door handle and rip the door off the hinges to get out. One time I jumped out of my window and strangely enough landed straight on my feet and woke up as soon as I landed on my feet. But I was half awake, half asleep state, so I knew what I was doing, because there's something after me. And that's what night terrors are. You think you're awake, but you're not. You're asleep. You're in a half state, so you know very well what you're doing, but you've got something happening to you that no one else would see, you know. And just horrible. I remember I used to scream and run just run. But I had a situation one time when we went for a trip over to America, which was so awesome. It was 1980. I must have been about, I think I was 10 or 11. And I didn't actually want to go because I was kind of scared about going on a plane. You know, parents are like, oh, you have to go, you don't have a choice. But then, again, I enjoyed it. I'm glad it did go. And it's a good excuse a parent can use too when they want to hold their hounds back. Like, oh, Mum, could I have this? No, we're still paying off the trip to America. You know, this kind of bullshit. But it's what parents did. They just manipulated shit all the time. My ones did. But, and yeah, we stayed in this hotel, motel, I don't know. Well, the little small ones. I think they're motels. And when we went over, we stayed in the same hotel. No problem, I didn't have a problem. The second time we came back, it was a different room. Same place, motel, whatever, different room. And I did not feel comfortable in this room at all. I had this very old feeling. You know, in Coronation Street, they have that music playing and they show all those old buildings. If you could imagine seeing that old nostalgical 1800s type feeling or whatever, seeing that and putting it into emotions, that's what I was feeling. Because out there was a whole lot of brick buildings and it was like an industrial area. And I had this very uncomfortable old feeling coming from it. It was very uncomfortable. It was that uncomfortable that I told my mother. I said, I don't really feel comfortable. So I made kind of a hat and I was in there and stuff. I just didn't feel comfortable at all being in that place. Something wasn't right. And I went to bed that night. There were 2 beds. The beds were separate beds. My brother was in one, I was in the other. There was an old time radio thing. So there was a lot of old objects around this whole place and this thing. A lot of old things. And went to sleep, la-di-da. And then boom, I woke up and there was a man. Well, I didn't actually wake up, I don't know what happened. I was greeted to a man dressed in black who had thick gloves on. They were very thick black gloves, big thick things. And he was dressed in black and he had what I called a mask, which I would call now a balaclava. I don't know, I didn't know what it was back then, but he had one of those on his head. And he chased me, came after me. He was trying to strangle me, trying to kill me. And I was shit scared. I found myself running from my bed and running straight into the door, trying to get out, trying to rip the door hinges off. I was shit scared. And I could see this thing coming after me. It was a man, it looked like a man. It wasn't, it was a thing. I'll say it was a thing. And the old man grabbed me and I thought it was that thing that had grabbed me, so I was trying to fight him off. But he had to give me a bit of a tap across the face to calm me down. You know. And put it down to just another dream. They weren't good night terrors back then, they were good dreams, bad dreams, which I constantly always had. Put it down to that, and I was frightened, I was so scared. I got put back to bed. Well, I was like 10 or things. I went back to bed, I went back to sleep, and it came after me again, this very same thing. This prick was relentless. It came after me again, and I got to the door again trying to get out, and I was just petrified. And the old man was shaking me, trying to bring me out of this state I was in, and I was gasping. I couldn't breathe. I was hyperventilating. I didn't know what that was back then, but that's what I was doing. I was and I started spewing up, and I was just, yeah, well, kind of explains how I felt. And after that, the old lady put me in her bed, and I was fine. I was safe. Now, when I first had the first instance, I thought, okay, it's a dream, it's kind of thing. But when that prick came after me again, what are the chances of him coming after me again as soon as I fall asleep again, If I knew what I knew now, and I had a child that went through that, I'd be breaking out the prayers. And the prayers would have already been done before bed anyway. Because I always have God in my life. No matter what state my life is in, I always have an opening door to God. And I know people see God differently, how they see God. I have a deep love for Jesus, and there's people who don't believe in all that kind of thing, and that's good, that's fine. But I've seen him stand at my bed, and he had a glowing face. He was at the end of my bed one time, and he just stood there, and I couldn't see his face. He just had this big glass face, and his clothes, he had a gown on, a cloaky type gown thing, cloak, well, what they wore in old times. He didn't have short hair, he had longish hair. It wasn't long, like down the back. It was probably maybe shoulders, a little bit past the shoulders maybe. And he had this glowing face. Well, I presume it was Jesus, it might have been some other being. And I opened my eyes and just sat there and looked. Kind of marvelled at his clothes, glowing. It's like his garments were white, but they gave off a luminous. The garments themselves gave off a luminous light. It wasn't big, but it gave off light. The garment this fellow was wearing was glowing, but it was giving off its own light. I don't know. How do you explain that? But yeah, but I'm gonna go into the next story next, okay? Okay, see you soon.